Hey class, this is Nathan Kang, and I'm excited to contribute to this week's discussion about JSTOR. I really like JSTOR. It was really helpful to narrow down my research about the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. I'm looking forward to hear how your experience is with JSTOR. I was able to find three different articles about within JSTOR about the 442nd that were very helpful to me in my research. The first one was by Israel Yost, entitled in a book entitled Combat Chaplain, and he talks about how many Japanese Americans were taught at a very young age by their immigrant parents that they had, and I quote, moral obligation to fight and defend their native land. And so they were taught at a very young age that you need to fight for your country, which is now America. That's interesting because in June 5th, 1942, when the 100th Battalion, which is the first Japanese American unit, was formed, about 1,500 men were asked one simple question, and it was, are you willing to die and fight for America? And they all emphatically said yes. Some even went further to say that they had to avenge the death of their loved ones and friends that were killed on the attack of Pearl Harbor. So for many Japanese Americans, they felt the need to prove their loyalty, but for some others, they also felt the need that was a shared united factor by all Americans at the time, which was the need to avenge the attack, avenge the death and those that suffered on the attack of Pearl Harbor. The second one I found was by James C. McNaughton, who wrote about the Japanese Americans and the U.S. Army in a historical article that was published in the U.S. Army Center of Military History. He talks about how the urge to fight for the American cause was not universally shared by all Japanese Americans during the Second World War. In fact, there were a good group of Japanese Americans that were in dissent. They did not want to fight because they felt betrayed by the American government when President Roosevelt issued the executive order to intern them into these various camps throughout the West Coast. And they were known as the no-no boys because they said no to two questions. The first question was, are you willing to fight for America? In which they said no. The second question was, are you willing to pledge your allegiance to the Japanese emperor? They said no. And so they said no to both things. I think this brings an interesting insight that I didn't think of before. And I'm excited to use this and utilize this when it comes to my research because it shows you that the formation and the struggles of the Japanese American communities within these regimental combat teams was not as easy as we may have thought it may have been. It's definitely a struggle. It's definitely not as black and white. There's a lot of complexities behind it and mixed emotions. So I'm excited to see what different thoughts and perspectives were going on here during this period of time, 1940 to 1945, within the Japanese American community. The third one was by the Commission of Wartime Relocation and Internment of Civilians, which is a study published by University of Washington entitled Personal Justice Denied. It talks about how there was a shift of opinion by military commanders towards the Japanese American Nisei soldiers. And so in the beginning of the war, many felt they did not trust the Japanese American soldiers. Their loyalty was obviously questioned when the attack of Pearl Harbor came. But the Japanese Americans, through their heroic actions in the 442nd, throughout all of Europe during the Second World War, were able to not only prove their loyalty, but also shift the mind of many military commanders. And in fact, there was a battle that was known as the Rescue of the Lost Battalion, which is when the 442nd, who suffered heavy casualties, rescued this Texas battalion that was surrounded by German soldiers in Italy. So this was a fascinating and heroic story of the Japanese American soldiers that put all at the front, go for broke, put everything on the line to be successful in order to really fight for America for what they really believed in personally. Lieutenant General Mark W. Clark, commander of the 5th Army, said this, and he would award the unit with the Presidential Unit Citation. He said, and I quote, "You are always thinking of your country before yourselves. You have never complained through your long periods and lines. You have written a brilliant chapter in the history of the fighting men in America. The 34th Division is proud of you. The 5th Army is proud of you. And the whole United States is proud of you." And so I'm looking forward to the research of this unit's brief history during the Second World War. It was very helpful to see through JSTOR the helpful articles and book chapters. And I'm excited to see, and I'm excited to hear what your thoughts of JSTOR is as well.